Good evening. It is 7:02, and we'd like to open the April 1st Rubenhour Library Trustees Board meeting. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote participation Zoom meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 19th, 2020. Since that time, unanticipated legal concerns relating to the open meeting law have been brought to our attention by the town clerk. Those concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. One concern is that the chat function allows parallel text conversation to a board's public meeting. Chat is essentially running commentary that is occurring but is not moderated or followed by the chair. All participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting participants joined by phone do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room, which are not incorporated into the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants will have equal access to this meeting. People that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you called in by phone, please use *8 to mute or unmute your phone. So that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion, we ask that people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noises do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chairperson of the raised hands, and the chairperson will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request the participant return their microphone back to mute. Thank you. That was it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Moving along, public participation.
There's no one here.
Okay, correspondence.
Yeah, sorry, I left that over from last month. There's no correspondence.
Okay, minutes. I noticed one thing. It's Dave Stevens, not Steffens, under the correspondence letter about the scholarship information.
Are you making that note, Sam, to change that?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
And at the top of page 2, there's I'm misspelling it. It said should put toward, and it's TWARD. There's a O missing. Put.
I was going to say
Toward.
that too, but I didn't say it.
Okay. I think I'm good otherwise. They look great, Chris. Anyone else have any comments, or do we have a motion to accept them?
I move to accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, Katrina,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mira.
Yes.
Okay, good. Off we go. Where's my agenda tab? There we go. Treasurer's report.
Okay, treasurer's report. The library building fund is $842,491.37. Rubenhour Library account is $6,737.16. And the library state grant balance is $3,516,000. $694.56. And there is no bath yet. It's the first of the month, so it's too early.
Okay.
And that is
Um,
it. Did
Can you
everybody
tell
get
me
the
that last number?
Sure. Library state grant, $3,516,694.56.
That's the grant, the
Yep,
grant fund.
that's correct.
Great. Thank you.
So Sam, I assume that means that as the bills are coming in for the building, they're not paying it out of the grant fund, they're doing something else with it. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so we're not touching the grant funds yet. It's coming out of the town money right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and the grant funds are in an interest-bearing account, so it's going to keep going up until we start spending it.
Okay. So my understanding of way the library will be bonded is basically after the construction is complete and after we get the 5th check from MBLC is when they're going to go out to they'll bond the rest of the money at that point. So that's when they're hoping we have all of our fundraising dollars in place. All the pledges are satisfied by then. And if they're not, we'll have to figure out a strategy on how to bond the money with the town treasurer, basically. Whether the trustees basically, one solution would be the trustees would satisfy the pledges out of existing trust funds, and then the pledges would go back to replenish the trust funds, basically, if there's still money outstanding. But we have a ways to go before we have to worry about that. Like at least a year, if not 2. Okay. Any questions on the treasurer's report? Friends report.
The big news at the Friends meeting was the book sale. So they were planning for that. Next weekend on April 10th will be a drop-off day. So I've already seen posts about that advertising that if you have books to drop off, you can drop them off on the 10th. The NHS kids from the high school will sort them and they will be stored. And then the book sale will be on May 1st and 2nd. So that is coming up and it will be outdoors. I'm hoping for good weather. I don't know that there's a rain date, so hopefully everything will be smooth with the weather. And that was the main news, unless I'm forgetting anything.
Think so.
Okay.
I assume they're going to get a tent. They did a tent for the book sale in the fall, so. As expanding on the book sale a little bit, the friends they are required by the town now to get liability insurance for it. They're working on a 2-day liability policy they have. That arranged, and they have to go to a Board of Health meeting to get basically the permission or to do the book sale. So I think that's going to be at next week's meeting or a soon-to-be meeting. They met with Sarah talked to Jim Garafigan today about it. So I think they're all set. They basically just need to go to get the formal lecture from the Board of Health. So, yes, David?
Yeah, is that for just this one because it's outside, and any further ones that are outside, or is that from now on whether it's outside or inside?
It's COVID related, just to
Okay.
make sure they're meeting all of the state's guidelines for this kind of event.
And that's what the insurance is for?
No.
No.
So the insurance is something different. It's still being worked out with the town in general, but basically when outside groups are putting on events on town property, like the Friends of the Council on Aging or the Friends of the Library or any non-town function, they're looking at what the requirement is for liability insurance for that event. So I don't know how this is going to work going forward. They're still working out with the town council and things. it's unclear. But they're buying it for this event. They found for a 2-day policy, it's fairly cheap money. So
what about all those things they have down at Fay Park, like in the fall, those fairs and all that kind of stuff? That's gonna have to be insured too?
that would be my assumption, yes. But and like the holiday bazaar and everything else. So I don't know how all of these are going to work, but that's an issue for Joe and Anthony to work out with the town council on what they're going to do on these things. But it's a potential concern for the Friends and other organizations going forward. So it's something to keep an eye on.
Certainly is. Yeah.
Anything else on the Friends report? Okay, fundraising and public awareness.
So it's been a busy month. We finished sending letters to everyone we could think of. Thank you guys for helping to get information so we could send them. So businesses and past mini golf sponsors and individuals who had given, but not to the $1,000 level. Various ways of trying to bring people in. We've had a number of naming opportunities claimed over the last month, which has been really exciting. And at this point, Sarah and I just queued up actually, we're ending on April 7th. So we've queued up the next 7 days of social media posts, just to make sure that everyone is aware that it's wrapping up, and to get their donations in if they would like to be on the wall or just want to support the thing. The Reader for Life room, so the kids who did the readathon, they are trying to crowdfund to name the teen room. So anyone who wants to give a little bit to be part of a bigger crowdfunded naming opportunity, that's one way to do that, which would include more people. Anyone who wants to donate a little bit would get them closer. So Mark, I'm sure I've forgotten something. There is one person I have to follow up with, or you do. We have to coordinate.
Okay. So a couple other things. The Emerson grant we were not awarded the Emerson grant. But I think we should go ahead with the project that we were going to fund with that grant, which was hearing assistance technology in the small meeting room at the desk in a portable system. So we should look at how we could fund that out of either the trust funds or out of what's the slush fund, the extra money that they put aside in the building project. There's money put aside. I can't remember the names of the funds now. I'm blanking.
With the contingency fund?
Thank you. The contingencies funds, right?
No problem.
Thank you. We asked for $5,000.
I don't usually be able to do that. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you. My mind is blank today. So, so we asked for $5,000 from Emerson. We did not get it, but I think what we wanted to fund with it is worth doing anyway. So we should find the money somewhere. So,
do we know how much it is?
We asked for $5,000 from Emerson, so that's about the amount we were talking about. So it's not huge push-ups to get there. Okay. The other thing, Katrina, that we were talking about today is the solar panel grant from EBSCO. If we're going to apply for that, we have to get on the ball because I think that's due at the end of the month. Ooh. So EBSCO, who's I don't know exactly what they are I know they supply a lot of materials for the libraries. They have a grant in which I think is up to $100,000 for solar panels. So we will try and get in line for that. We also, I forget when this happened compared to the last meeting, Senator Eldridge also talked to us about a potential earmark in the upcoming state budget for that. So we've sent him information about potential for solar panels from being funded through the state. So we're looking at that on many different fronts. So
Okay.
Um,
Do you have the information on the grant, or do we need to seek it out?
it's on the
EBSCO grant.
EBSCO, it's on the EBSCO site. We just have to work on filling it out.
Okay.
So,
Let's do that.
yes. Am I missing anything? Do you remember anything, Sam? Oh, I believe we've decided on a location for the donor wall. Being the names of the donors will be basically in the stairwell. And there's going to be a meeting hopefully next week to talk with the signage company about getting the donor wall set and plaques for all the rooms, all the named rooms. So we're going to start that process hopefully next week. Okay, I think that's it. Did I miss anything else? Okay.
Like I said, I didn't take my notes are all scratched out, and I don't remember what I did this month. So I'm glad you remembered those things.
Okay, any questions on the fundraising? Okay.
If you guys can help spread the word for the end of it, like let's, I think that'll be fun to have at least online, socially, we can do we made it, and then we'll do another. Sarah and I were talking about ways to spread the message that we're finished too. So we're still looking at the post fundraising messaging as well.
Do we have a total?
We're very close. Let's leave it at that for the moment.
Okay.
We will have a total for you next month after the final push comes in. It's kind of in flux because it's kind of hard to say because the money comes in so when the money comes in, it's the pledges are satisfied, but the money, between the time the money comes in for the pledges and the time it hits MMDT, it's kind of you're never really sure how accurate the numbers are when we're trying to track them, right? Because they're coming into like 3 or 4 different buckets. So
yeah,
there's been a bunch of them right now too, David. So it's hard to tell where we are.
That's good. Let it roll.
Yeah. It's been nice to see them roll recently.
Yes.
But we'll have, we're pretty confident we're going to hit the $1 million goal. So it's just the final push needs to finish up. So if there's no other question, we'll move on to building project updates. So the building itself, I know the windows have been installed on the lower level. They're starting to put up the concrete siding, and they're starting to build the curtain walls. They're starting the electrical up on the main floor. Almost everything is finished on the ground floor as far as the electrical and the drywall, I think, except the meeting room, which is pending on things from Kirby. Basically, LCTV has some comments. I will try and arrange another tour before our next meeting. Sam and I were in a couple weeks ago. The windows look really nice. Am I missing any? And you can talk about the furniture and the shelving and the moving and things, Sam. You know more about that than I do.
Yeah, so we've chosen the carpets. We've chosen the colors. They're going to get the colors in, and we're going to go in and look at them. They're actually going to paint some samples, and we'll get a look at them actually in the library. And we are choosing furniture. We have another meeting next week with Natalie, and so that's going along pretty quickly. We're going to take most of the metal shelving from the old library and put it into the new library. And I've met with 3 different moving companies. I've gotten quotes from 2 of them so far. I'm waiting on the 3rd one. I'm going to have to talk with Joe and Anthony about what we're going to do with the furniture we're not taking and what they want to do with it. Can we get rid of it or not? We're also, all of us are going to have to talk eventually about when they move the shelving, we're going to have to close the library for some period of time, and when they're moving everything. So when I have a better idea of that, we'll discuss that. Also, the staff have been baking goods to bring to the construction site, and they've really loved it. The staff have signed up, and they had a few this week. I think they have some of the staff are going to do it next week and the following week. So it's going really well. And that's all I had.
How did the trustees get on that exchange?
Just talk to Cheryl. Cheryl's the one who's coordinating.
Not eating them, Mark. You get to bake things.
Oh, but anything that Cheryl's baking, you want to eat.
I know.
Yeah. I know the construction worker, they were very happy with the baked goods delivery the other day. So, and do you want to talk about is the furniture now all picked out, Sam, or almost picked out, or?
I think children's and teens is pretty much picked out for the most part. I went to the East Forest Park Library in Springfield on Monday, and basically everything they've been showing us, they put it in that library, and it looks good. It's comfortable. It's pretty sturdy. I think it's good. There's some things that Natalie has shown us that I don't want, and I'm working with her to change that. But other than that, it looked good, and the staff there liked it. They opened just before COVID hit, so they were only open for about 3 months. So they said during those 3 months, the patrons liked it, but they've been closed ever since. They've only been doing curbside. They haven't even opened for browsing yet. So, but yeah, the furniture looked great.
Is the same furniture also for like the historical room and the conference rooms, or is that something separate picked out?
No, so we're basically taking everything that's in the current history room, the table, the chairs, the map case. We're going to put that downstairs in the local history room. There's a few other things we're taking with us, but the majority of the furniture is staying. It's mostly just shelving.
Okay. Any questions on the building project? I'll try and arrange a tour for a Thursday or Friday towards the end of the month. Maybe Al will be there this time. And I don't know if you want to try and do another staff tour towards the end of the month or the beginning of May as well.
Yeah.
So, trustee updates. I'll go first since I'm already talking. I would say that I wish the library wasn't so efficient at satisfying my interlibrary loans because they all come at once. I don't know how this happens, that I look on the list and I'm like number 30 or 40 on the book, and then all of a sudden 3 of them arrive at the same time that I was number 30 or 40 on, and I now have 3 weeks to finish 3 books that I don't have time to read all at once. So it's a good problem to have, though. So and I can say I enjoy the puzzle table, and I'm looking forward to getting back into the building one of these days. So. Want to go next, Katrina?
I feel like I keep stopping in with money and checks and stuff. So I've gotten to see the staff and inside the building even, which I feel very fortunate about. It's been nice to see their faces. And I'm actually very pleased with how fast the interlibrary loans come because it keeps my kids in books. So there's a benefit to it too. Diane keeps hitting it out of the park with the children's readers advisory. If I read more, I'm sure the others would also hit it out of the park for me too. I've been so into fundraising this month that I don't have much else to add about the library.
Chris?
So I don't really have anything new. I've really, at this point, really focused on Catherine's college stuff decisions. That's been taking up my time. And I don't know if people knew I transitioned to full-time in November, so I've been working at home full-time. But that said, I'm one of the co-signers for Susan for the invoices and stuff. So I do get a little email, 3 or 4 times a week with having to electronically sign things for Susan. So I get a little email from Susan a couple times a week, which is nice. I try to get that stuff done as quickly as I can. I also enjoyed Diane's picture out her window. It was today or yesterday. I'm trying not to be on Facebook as much as I used to be, but I happened to see that, and she had a really great picture of the construction with the new windows prominently displayed, which was sort of nice to see that. So I took a walk down there myself a couple of days ago, and it's just nice to see that beautiful building emerge from the swamp back there. So anyway, I am feeling much better than I was previously, because I feel like the sun and the light at the end of the day is making my spirits better than they were over the winter. So hopefully that will continue to get better. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. David?
Oh, I just have to say, I'm really pleased with the way the library it's just climbing up into the sky. You know, I look at it, the roof changes color, and I mean, it's, you know, all kinds of stuff going on. So that's really a pleasure to see. Okay. And looking forward to the day when we can all just walk through the front door. That would be really nice. You know, and hard to wait for that. It's been kind of a crazy month. You haven't lived until you see your daughter have a gallbladder attack. That's very interesting. So, I'm getting a lot of text messages here. Yeah, she was not in good shape a couple of weeks ago, but she's much better now, minus a gallbladder. So, but you don't ever want to see that. That's not good. But anyway, we're all better. Everybody's
I had
good.
my gallbladder out when Catherine was 3 months old, and it was worse than childbirth. So just, you know.
Yeah. My daughter doesn't know about childbirth, but she said it was really, really bad. Really bad. And I agree, because I had to sit there and watch her doing all that stuff, and couldn't change anything until I said, we're going to the hospital, and we're going in the ambulance, and we're going now. And after that, it was better. So, but anyway, it's all good, and we're all getting our shots. Lori's scheduled for a shot. I don't know about Jenna. She doesn't say anything. So imagine that'll come along someday. Jean's scheduled. I'm scheduled for my second one. So time marches on, and finally, maybe it'll all happen. We'll all be inoculated. We can all meet again somewhere, like when we walk through the door of the library for the first time. That would be good.
Okay, Mira?
Okay. Not a whole lot new and exciting. We're making good use of Overdrive and Hoopla, and a lot of audiobook listening going on in my house. I'm going back to work, so I get to listen to audiobooks in the car again. So that's one of the perks of going into school rather than teaching from home. But yeah, I love seeing the pictures of the library and how it's coming along. So I need to take a drive by. I haven't actually driven by lately, but I need to do that again and see how it's looking. But that's about it.
Okay, director's report.
Okay, so the software we use for booking rooms, programs, museum passes, that sort of thing, Library Insight, they're going out of business at the end of the year. So I had to choose a new scheduling software. So I took a demo with Andy, and we took a look at it at a new system called Asabat, and we decided to go with that. So we purchased the software, and it's used for room bookings, museum passes, programming, and they also have a library of things module. So that means we can put the hotspot, the telescope on there, and patrons can just go on there and reserve a telescope. And hopefully when we move in the new library, we'll get more things to add to that. Curbside is going really well. It's we average about 70 people a day, 70, 80 people a day. It's going really well. Patrons love it. And then the appointments are also going well. Patrons are coming in. We're getting about maybe 16, 17 people a week. So far, so good. No real issues. The only couple of things, parents sometimes forget they can't bring their kids. So sometimes the kids cry. That's one thing. Sometimes couples, they think they can just sign up one of them and they both can come, and they don't realize they have to sign up individually. But other than that, it's going well. The process has gone pretty smoothly. And like I said before, I went to Springfield on Monday, and I met with the director there and talked about Johnson Roberts, their Johnson Roberts library, and they love it. It's going really well there. They like the furniture, the building itself. It's going great. As far as programming goes, adult programs, the Susan Mallory program was on March 2nd. It had 9 people. On March 16th, the Geologic History of Littleton program took place. That one had 75 patrons. The Shamrock Craft Kit had 65 patrons. Virtual Fantastical Book Club will meet via Zoom on April 25th at 2. The Third Wednesdays Book Club meets via Zoom on April 21st at 7:30. And Merrimack the Resilient River program is on April 21st at 7 p.m. via Zoom. YA programs, the Teen Minute to Win It games via Zoom is on April 22nd at 7. Children's Take It and Make It Beaded Flowers on April 6th. The third grade virtual book club meets via Zoom on April 8th. Littles and Letters Story Times is every Wednesday on Facebook. Virtual Toddler Story Time with Miss Jennifer goes out every Friday on Facebook. And second grade book club meets on via Zoom on April 20th. The staff are doing really great with the online programs. Helen is doing really well with coming up with all these craft ideas and kits and author talks. So it's going really well. And the rest of it is just financials. Financially, we're doing pretty well. We're pretty much on target for payroll. We're with town materials, because nothing's really being made because of COVID, like DVDs and books. It's hard to buy stuff, so we're a little behind on that, but we're getting there. I think we already reached tomorrow. We just have to spend more money to fulfill the budget. But as far as tomorrow goes, I think we have like $1,000 left before we reach it. And the rest is just stats. Any questions?
I see you're falling behind in the notary numbers again, Sam.
I know.
Does Andy just make up people to notarize?
I think she does.
I mean, she must, right? She's double Gene.
If she does 7 pages, she counts it 7 times. If I do 7 pages, I count it 1 time. That's where she gets it. I count it towards a person, not the pages.
All right. Well, I think you need to standardize that definition so this data is meaningful, please.
Do you have anything to add, Helen?
No, nothing I can think of. Crafts fly out the door. We started a birdseed craft today where you make these ornaments with recycled file folders, and you fill it with birdseed and Jell-O, and it kind of makes a little shape, and you hang it out. And that already seems to be going out the door. We have bill veils coming in May because the person who we had for the geological history of Littleton was a little more like a 10,000 foot view. And I kept waiting for Littleton to be, in the spotlight. So instead we got our local geologist, Bill Vales, and he's going to talk the first night on Tophet Chasm, because a lot of questions about that. And the second time he's going to talk about Newtown Hill and Sarah Doublet. So that should be interesting. And then we have Judith Taylor coming back because people really like her, and she's going to do a thing on starting your own vegetable gardens. So a lot of people are interested in CSAs and vegetables. So it's going to be a 2-part series focusing on selection of seeds to start out, where you have your garden, the layout, and then the second part will be how to transplant things, what things you plant from seed, and how to maintain it. So look for a lot of good programming in May.
Sounds awesome.
That's good. I watched the geology program and I had the same, it was interesting, but I wanted to know more about Littleton. So I'm glad to hear that will be coming.
Good,
So
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Sam or Helen? If not, we'll move on to COVID updates. Okay.
So Helen, Diane, Jenna, and Andy and we all met last week to discuss how we want to move forward. We would like to, we're going to meet again at the end of this month. But some of the ideas we put out there is maybe instead of closing at 7 on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we could close at 8, because I think that's where we're going to be heading towards anyway when we move into the new building. And maybe extending, that means we could extend the number of people that come in by 1 more hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we're thinking about doing the same thing on Saturdays, extending it by another hour. possibly letting more people in per hour. Like I said, we're still kind of spitballing it at the moment. We want to just look at how things are going this month and talk about it again at the end of the month. And then I think our meeting is just before our next trustee meeting, so I can bring you more information at that meeting. And yeah, go from there.
So, are we finding that, we're allowing what, 3 people in at a time? 3 people per hour, is that? Are we turning
Six
people away? 6
No,
people
it's-
an hour? Are we finding that all 6 slots are typically booked, or?
It varies. Sometimes we'll get like 5 people in the 3 o'clock hour and then 1 at 4 and 1 at 5. So but then there are other days when it's more per hour, but usually everyone comes in, I'd say around 3 or 4. And then at the 5 o'clock hour, it's maybe 1 or 2 people. Yeah, but it's not that many people. And when they do come in, it's like for 10 minutes.
So most people are browsing. There's not much for the computer use at the moment, or?
There's 1 or 2 people that come in, just they were coming in even before we opened for browsing for the computer. But yeah, it's mostly browsing.
Okay. Do you have anything to add on any of that, Katrina?
Nope, I don't. I was curious of seeing how many people were actually wanting to come into the building and whether the hours we chose were working for people, or if there were patrons who were hoping for different hours. But it sounds like you're getting some, but we're not filling those slots. So
Didn't you say, Sam, 16 or 17 people per week?
Yeah, it's quite a few people per week. It's like maybe 6 per day, 6, 12, 6, so 6, 12, 18. Yeah, so
Okay.
out of what, like 50 slots though?
yeah, something like that.
Something like that. If
Yeah.
I did my math right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
So
there
it's
any
not-
talk?
it's like 30% filled.
Is there any talk of letting kids in at some point? Is that on the agenda, or is that still far out?
I think that's still far out. I don't know. We're open to it. That's one of the things we're going to discuss the next time we meet. I mean, there are kids that want to come in, but they also are, Diane gets them coughing in her face, so she doesn't really want that right now. So
I mean, there's still a lot of paranoia out there. Jean came home and said that there was a ton of traffic down at Russell Street today, and she finally figured out why. It was everybody's
pickup.
picking up their kids. Yeah, because they won't let them ride on the bus, or the bus is too expensive, one or the other. So people are still a little bit.
People are picking up their kids, so they limit the number of contacts on the bus since they sit right next to each other.
Right. So maybe it's not a good time to bring them into the library either. So
It is a good conversation to have for kids, maybe not in this next month, but as we're wrapping up the school year and we can see what happens with kids over the next few weeks.
Well, that's a couple months away. That's a good idea.
Yeah, so it'd be a great discussion to see how we can incorporate kids into summer reading, whatever summer reading is going to look like this year.
Yeah. Diane's already coming up with ideas for how to do summer reading. And I don't know if you want to talk about this, Mark, but we're talking about getting a tent and working with.
I was going to bring that up under new business. So you want to start it, or you want me to?
Well, I don't know how much there is to say other than we talked about it. Everybody wants to do it, but nobody knows where to put it or how to pay for it or anything like that. So I don't know what you have to add.
So I actually also talked to Ashley. So I sent mail to Sam, Alicia Day, the Park and Rec director, and Ashley Sheehan, the COA director, to talk about getting a shared tent for the use by the 3 departments. And everyone seemed to think it was a good idea, but no one knew where to put it or how it was going to be paid for. So I actually threw you under the bus today, Sam, when I talked to Ashley, and I said, why don't you and Ashley figure out how big of a tent you want and where it could potentially go, and get Joe and Anthony to nod up and down that we can put a tent there, and then we'll figure out how to pay for it. Because Ashley seemed to think that you could get a tent, you could buy a tent for about $15,000 ish. And I think paying for it is something that, I mean, between the trustees, the friends of the COA, the Rotary, you know, I'm sure we can find the money for it somewhere. If we can find a spot that the tent works. So I think we should start with getting permission for the tent and then finding that we can get a tent, and then let's work on how to pay for it separately. But I had 3 ideas on where to put it. None of them are necessarily that great. So part of it is depending on how big of a tent. Like when they held the book sale last year, they put up a tent in beside the front of the library there in the little grassy area, kind of by the book drop area, right? So I don't know how big of a tent you could actually put there. I know they had a big enough one for the book sale, but I don't know if that's big enough for anything you need. There's the potential putting one in the parking lot, but then you're taking parking spaces. Or the other potential is to work with Park and Rec and the highway department and put it over at like Fay Park and say, we're just going to hold programs and things over at Fay Park when we hold them. Where there's plenty of room for the tent, but it's not necessarily as convenient. But I think we should figure out what we want for a tent and what we can, you know, how to accommodate it, get permission to put it there, and then figure out the rest. So I don't know if other people have ideas or comments or feelings about this, but
How long are you to use the tent for?
all summer at least. So
So a $15,000 tent for 3 months?
So that would be to purchase a tent, not to rent a tent.
You're gonna rent one, okay, rent. Okay.
No, $15,000 to purchase a tent that the town would then own, basically. So then the issue after that is where you store the tent. Right?
So if the town's gonna own it, the town could buy it and it wouldn't have to be us or COA?
Well, we could own it or the town could own it, or yes, I don't know who ends up owning it, but yes. So, there's also the potential, you know, to use, if there's any of the COVID or CARES fund, it's possible that we could use some of that money to buy a tent, right? But it's unclear if there's any of those funds available. So, but I think several departments in town could benefit from having a tent. Maybe talk to the schools, because I know the school has one out in front of Russell Street now, and they have one at the high school, so they must have
They have
either
them at
bought one or
every,
rented one.
yeah, they have one at every school. So if there's a way to borrow or rent one from the schools for a summer, it would be good.
Yeah, so,
If they
Yeah.
purchased themselves. I can't remember.
so do you want to look into that, Sam, or do you want me to look into the school one?
Sure, I can look into it.
Okay, so, but I think we should do something so that we can hold more in-person outside programming. So, and Ashley had all kinds of ideas of programming and joint programming that we could do, so.
Mhm.
So if that goes well, potentially Sam will be coming back in next month and asking for money for a tent. Does anyone have any other comments on that?
So Sam, so I'm thinking of summer right now. This is where my brain is. You were saying that the library for the moving will need to close, but we're not sure when that's going to be. I'm just trying to think of summer reading. Is that going to?
Yeah, so I think the library will be done by the end of August, and that's usually around the time summer reading ends. And then all of the moving companies say it'll take about 9 to 10 days to move everything from the current library to the new library, but we will need time to, they give us the boxes so that we can pack up ourselves. They just move the shelving and the furniture, but we'll actually have to pack ourselves. So that'll take time. And then I'm not sure when the shelving has to go over, because I know we're building new shelving in the new library, but then we'll also have to add the current shelving, which means if we don't have books, shelf books, we don't have a library. So yeah, I'm gonna have to work with the moving company once we choose one, Brian, our OPM, and the contractor to figure out when we're gonna be done, and then that'll help me to know when we can move.
you might want to talk to like the library in Springfield and a couple others and figure out how they handled the process too, so we can get an idea of what they did when they moved between facilities, or things like that. I mean, some of them might not have had to move. It might have been like an expansion, but it might be a good idea to figure out what they did, how long they shut, and what the process was. And I'm sure Phil can also give us ideas or people to talk to.
Yep.
Okay. I have one other thing under new business that I wanted to run. So our next meeting is scheduled for May 6th, and the town election is scheduled for May 8th. So the question is, do we want to have our next meeting on May 6th and have David and Demetra still on the board for 2 more days? Or do we want to postpone it and welcome our new trustees at the next meeting? I don't know what people are thinking, if they have any thoughts on that, or what Dave, well, actually, I don't even know if I want David's opinion on that, so.
Well, I was planning already on coming to the next meeting, so I mean, that was going to be my last meeting. But if you want to make this the last one, that's okay too.
I haven't had a single in-person meeting with David or Demetra, just saying.
Okay.
We often have the new trustees join us at the meeting before we shift over, right? So couldn't we just have the new? No.
Yeah.
They're unopposed, right?
I went to 3 meetings before I got elected
I did an extra month.
because I was unopposed. So I think it'd be good if they were here tonight.
But I guess I feel like
It would be
we
nice
should
to
have-
say goodbye to Demetra.
Yeah, I feel like we should have the meeting as scheduled because that's when we meet. And we should
Okay.
invite the new trustees to join us if they want to, knowing that they can't vote. And then, be able to say goodbye to David and Demetra.
Yep,
Okay.
that makes sense.
Okay.
That's what I think anyway.
Okay.
I do like
I'm
the
fine with
idea of having them present, the new trustees elect, maybe, who knows,
Yeah.
present so they can hear how things are going. I know that was really useful for me before I stepped into the role. So
I did send them the packet for this meeting, but I didn't do it until this afternoon. So based on my wonderful organizational skills. So okay. So we'll plan to meet as scheduled on the 6th. Does anyone have any other business?
Oh, yes. Yes, I was going to suggest that maybe we should look in with some seriousness to having the next meeting be live.
So I started that process for this meeting and then I dropped the ball. So I will try and do it again. It gets a little more complicated in that we have to involve Kirby and the LCTV team to hold the meeting, but it's just getting all the ducks in a row. And I started the process and then it got lost in my inbox. So I will try and do it for the next meeting.
Okay. And remember, there was a time when we didn't get recorded. And
Yes.
it's actually probably okay to do that again this next time. Just once, Mark, just for once. It might be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not touching that one.
Okay.
Any other business? Anyone want to end the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor? Katrina,
Yes.
David,
Aye.
Mira,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We will plan on meeting again on May 6th.
That's good.
And I will try and send up something before then for another tour of the library. And I will also invite the new trustees when we do that. So thank you,
And you're also-
everybody.
and-
Sounds great.
and you're